Hello and welcome to Shadowline News. Lake Victoria, a stunning body of water bordering Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, is the beating heart of East Africa. It supports over 40 million people, fueling a massive fishing industry and sustaining entire communities. But a terrible silence is settling over the water. Fishermen are pulling in empty nets, and even worse, they are finding thousands of dead fish, particularly the commercially vital Nile perch, washing up on the shores. For years, these mass die-offs were a mystery, with official statements often pointing toward natural causes. But our investigation today, based on scientific reports and on-the-ground accounts, reveals a complex, multi-layered crisis where natural phenomena are being fatally weaponized by human negligence. The core issue isn't a single deadly poison. It is a slow, suffocating death caused by a profound lack of oxygen in the water, a condition known as hypoxia, and this crisis is the direct result of decades of unchecked pollution flowing into the lake. So, what is truly poisoning the fish? The direct killer, the one that causes immediate suffocation, is the critically low dissolved oxygen, which drops to near zero levels in certain areas of the lake. Alright, first point, let's look at eutrophication, which is, the process that depletes this vital oxygen. It's an excessive enrichment of water by nutrients, primarily phosphorus and nitrogen. So, where do these come from, you might wonder? Well, they come from massive influxes of untreated sewage from urban centers, runoff from poorly treated industrial effluent, and agricultural fertilizers washing into the rivers that feed the lake. These nutrients, they act like superfood for microscopic plants called algae. The algae bloom uncontrollably, creating a thick green mat on the surface. And then, when these massive algal blooms inevitably die, they sink to the bottom of the lake. The process of decomposition, which is the natural breakdown of this enormous organic mass by bacteria, consumes colossal amounts of oxygen, essentially sucking the air out of the water for everything else. Now let's talk about the second factor, which is thermal stratification. The lake naturally forms layers of water, a warmer oxygenated layer on top, and a colder deoxygenated layer near the bottom. But when climate change drives extreme weather events, like sudden changes in temperature or strong winds, these layers abruptly mix in a process called upwelling. The deoxygenated water from the lake floor surges to the surface, causing what scientists term a thermal shock, and suffocating thousands of fish at once. This mixing of layers, however, only becomes lethal because the bottom water is so heavily polluted and oxygen-starved in the first place. Moving on to our second finding, while suffocation is the immediate cause of death, the long-term chronic threat comes from a deadly cocktail of industrial and mining contamination. This is where the term poisoning truly applies. We are talking about heavy metals and persistent organic pollutants. Lead, cadmium, and particularly mercury are being pumped into the lake. Mercury, for instance, is a major byproduct of artisanal gold mining in the region, flowing from rivers like the Migori and straight into Lake Victoria. While a 2002 review suggested levels in fish were mostly within World Health Organization, or WHO, limits, it also noted that the largest Nile perch can have elevated concentrations, posing a distinct risk to vulnerable human groups. Furthermore, we find pesticides, like the banned DDT metabolite, and industrial toxins. These contaminants may not cause an instant fish kill, but they accumulate in the fish's tissues over time, affecting their fertility, weakening their immune systems, and making them more susceptible to disease and, crucially, to the oxygen-deprived water. They are creating a chronically unhealthy fish population that cannot withstand the environmental shocks. Our third body section explores the new, rapidly growing threats. First, the pervasive problem of microplastics. From discarded fishing gear to single-use plastics, researchers have found these microscopic fragments in nearly 100% of tested locations around the lake, and in a significant proportion of the fish themselves. Microplastics carry and concentrate contaminants like a sponge, allowing toxins to pass into the food chain, threatening not only the fish, but also the millions of people who rely on them for food. Second, the unexpected complication from aquaculture, or cage fish farming. While intended to boost local production, high-density fish cages can contribute to pollution. They introduce excess feed residue, antibiotics, and fish waste directly into the localized water column, further depleting oxygen and accelerating the formation of the very dead zones that kill the fish they are meant to be farming. It is a devastating feedback loop of environmental destruction. The massive fish die-offs in Lake Victoria are not merely a natural disaster. They are a tragic signpost of an environmental emergency driven by human-created pollution. The fish are not being instantly poisoned by a single source, but are instead being suffocated by oxygen depletion, which itself is the final fatal consequence of a decade-long nutrient overflow. The culprits are clear unchecked industrial discharge, the failure to treat massive volumes of human sewage, and unsustainable agricultural practices. Reversing this crisis requires a coordinated effort across the three countries of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. It demands investment in modern wastewater treatment, rigorous enforcement of anti-pollution laws against factories, and a shift toward sustainable farming in the entire lake basin. The economic and human cost of inaction is staggering, threatening the livelihood of 40 million people, not to mention the very ecosystem of one of the world's greatest freshwater resources. We must pay attention to the silence below the surface. Lake Victoria is calling out for help.